We are back. It is Colts Corner with myself, Kevin Bowen. To the bullpen we go, to a team that, as much as it pains me to say, is looking pretty good with September arriving. He is a diehard Cubs fan. You hear him on our airwaves, and you've heard him fill in before for Eddie Garrison. Mark Dykton, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to come in out of the bullpen every once in a while.
We appreciate it, and you always do a wonderful job. Roster cuts will primarily be the focus today. Again, we're recording this late Friday morning. I know it's kind of a weird time for us to usually release a pod, but I don't see Saturday's game overwhelmingly changing things, and I hate doing like a Monday pod, and then boom, you turn around to Tuesday, and it's decision day. So I figure we'll go position by position here, Mark, go through the 53-man roster cut. The quarterback topic, which obviously was very relevant earlier in the week. I guess it's always relevant, I should say. Main thoughts on Tuesday's pod. We got a ton of Twitter questions on that, so I feel like that will kind of serve as our quarterback focus with that. How does that sound, Mark, to lay out the plan?
That sounds
today?
good. That works. Yeah, we're not putting too much emphasis on the preseason finale. We think mostly the roster positions have been determined, but you put that article out, so curious to see your thoughts and how everything laid out for you.
Before we get going, more wins for your Bears or the Colts this year?
Oh, the Bears. It better be the Bears.
Boy, that was said quickly. That was said
It better be the
confidently.
Bears.
That was said decisively with emphasis behind it.
I mean, I know they're in the toughest.
Aren't you in a tough division?
They're in the toughest division in football, but I think with Ben Johnson and that coaching staff, Dennis Allen on the defensive side, Eric Bieniemy is the running backs coach, Antoine Randall, the wide receivers coach. They have a who's who at coaching, and they seem to be coaching those guys up. And yeah, I'm not guaranteeing an NFC North division or anything like that, but I'd be shocked if they're not 9 or 10 wins this year.
Now the Vegas over/under is what, 8.5?
Yeah, they do have a
okay,
tough.
So that's not much different than the Colts. Colts are 7.5.
They do have a tough schedule, but if the Colts have a better record than the Bears, then something has gone horrifically wrong for the Bears this season.
Interesting. All right, Mark, let's get into it. Again, let's go position by position here. We don't need to spend a long time on each one, but kind of want to give you where my thought process is heading into the cut from 90 to 53.
Okay. Where are your thoughts? Go right ahead. Do we need to go to quarterback? I feel
let's just go in order just to kind of give it a little bit of structure. Yeah, quarterback to me is very self-explanatory. It's the one we can probably spend the least amount of time on. I was curious, would Jason Bean challenge Riley Leonard? And doesn't sound like that is a challenge at all. And Bean got so few reps, some of the fewest reps I've really seen from a quarterback. So Riley Leonard for the first half tomorrow. He's your quarterback 3, and Jason Bean for the fourth, or I should say for the second half tomorrow. And I don't even really see the need for him on the practice squad, to be honest with you.
Jason Bean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, do you think the Colts are going to dress Riley Leonard on Sundays, or is he going to be...
Well, you got that emergency rule, right?
Right.
The emergency third quarterback, so I think they'll do that. I mean...
I know if you were thinking he would even go practice squad. I assumed he would not, but yeah.
Yes, I'm keeping him on the 53.
Okay. There you go. All right, running back, that's also seems pretty self-explanatory, I think. I'm
a little curious about the Tyler Goodson injury, so I'm going to keep Jonathan Taylor, DJ Giddens, Tyler Goodson, and Khalil Herbert. I would guess some of my colleagues might not do that. Now with Goodson, he's got an elbow injury. He's also your starting gunner, which is another kind of weird little quirk. Right now, both your starting gunners are hurt, Goodson and Doolin. So could Brian Mason get a, gunner type on the roster that is maybe not as obvious? That's something to watch for. But, assuming Goodson is not going to miss a ton of time, or else he'll be an IR to return candidate. Herbert got back to practice this week, and he's missed a good amount of time. Mm-hmm. Now, you know Herbert as a Bears guy, so I know there was some questions. Would he be on the team? I think he will. I'm curious about Ulysses Bentley, the fourth. Could he crack it as an undrafted free agent? But if Herbert is healthy and Goodson is back in September, maybe you carry 4. If not, then I could see this as a 3-position, Bentley to the practice squad, and then obviously bring Goodson back whenever he is. Because I think a healthy Goodson might be your second running back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think this is a waiver claim spot, Mark. When you talk about pass-catching running back, do you really want DJ Giddens as a rookie in that role? And I mean, seemingly every other day of practice, Jonathan Taylor drops one. So I don't necessarily want him in that third down role either. So, running back, a little bit of indecision for me.
Wide receiver is where we go next. This is pretty front-loaded, I feel like, but curious about the depth pieces you have hanging on.
Mark, I've got no real debate at wideout or tight end. Again, assuming Ashton Doolin's injury is not severe, then I think this is very straightforward. Josh Downs, Ashton Dulin, Anthony Gould, A.D. Mitchell, Alec Pearson, Pittman. Dulin and Gould are your kick returners, so they help you out on special teams. Gould is your punt returner. Now, Downs, I was a little worried about that hamstring, but, asked Shinton Sykin the other day, would he be ready for week 1? And he acted like he would be. So, Coleman Owen, undrafted kid out of Ohio, transferred from, I forget where he was before that, I think somewhere out west. He has been awesome in camp. I think Reggie Wayne loves him, so maybe he's a practice squad guy for you. And if Downs was hurt, I could see him maybe making it. So, yeah, wideout to me, Mark, seems pretty straightforward with those 6.
Any guys on the practice squad going there?
Owen would be the one. Maybe Laquan Treadwell, just given his veteran nature to him. Those would probably be the 2.
I have a soft spot for Laquan Treadwell. He was the only NFL pro that ever came out of my high school. So that I do have a special spot for the other Crete-Money warrior out there. You go, Laquan. Take care of business. Get that roster spot.
Let's go.
And then you said tight end. Now, the Will Mallory, Drew Ogletree, Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods situation. Where are we going here?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't know. Maybe I'll be kind of blindsided a little bit by it. But, Mark, I kind of look at this as Warren, obviously, and then Mo Alley Cox, Drew Ogletree, and Will Mallory. I think Jelani Woods has definitely flashed at times, but how do you keep 5? So maybe practice squad for him. Do you carry 5 initially and then do the roster game, or then you move him to practice squad later in the week? I mean, maybe you could do that, but I think Mallory's earned the 4th spot, and we'll see. Maybe it's something that tomorrow in the game, maybe something could be a little bit impacty here, but I'll say those 4 and then Woods to the practice squad.
Now we'll move to the offensive line. Do you want to go position by position? Would you rather just go full group and who you have hanging on there?
Yeah, let's go starters and then backups.
Okay.
So your starters are obvious: Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Tanner Bortolini, Matt Gonzalez, Braden Smith. Your backups, I would say Jalen Travis, the rookie 4th-round pick, and Dalton Tucker would be your first 2. Next, I'll go with Danny Pinter, who has gotten back to practice. And then I think Luke Tenuta is the one that emerged when Blake Freeland, I remember John Tenuta being a crazy defensive coordinator at Notre Dame.
His nickname had to be Tuna in high school. Tuna!
Oh, yeah. That's
for sure.
Oh, that's a layup.
Yeah.
I think he is the new kind of 4th tackle, right tackle. So I like a waiver claim scour here, certainly, but I think Tenuta has benefited from the Freeland injury, as bad as that sounds. So, Josh Sills is a name. I'm keeping 9. Ballard has definitely kept 10 in prior years. Sills would be a name as a guard that's played snaps. I know people know the name Wesley French, but I feel relatively confident with that 9. And then Sills would be the one that I'd be watching for.
Oh, you should have saw Tuna at the Kegger the other day. Oh, my God. Tuna, you're a wild man.
Can you imagine he just gets a case of Busch Light just for himself?
Oh, for sure. One on each shoulder, probably.
These.
One on each shoulder, most likely. All right, let's move defensive side. Let's start defensive line there.
Yeah, I am. This one's a little bit difficult for me. So I bumped it up to 10 from earlier in the week. I added Tim Smith, the 6th-round pick out of Alabama. I kind of did a little roster gymnastics to get him through. And I'm trying to put myself into Ballard's shoes. Ballard loves defensive line, as we know. And so, while 10 means you probably have one of these guys inactive, I just think that's how he likes to operate. The starters, Buckner, Stewart, I guess Kwity Paye, assuming he's back to health, and then Latu. Samson Ebicom's dealt with a back injury lately, so just something to keep an eye on. Tyquan Lewis is definitely a key guy. Obviously, JT Tuimoloau. And then I'll go with Neville Gallimore is probably the top interior guy, and then Adetomiwa Adebawore is still around. So there's your 10. I cut Isaiah Land. I cut Eric Johnson. I think the Nchami guys had some moments too. Josh Tupou is the big old dude who Lou Anarumo had in Cincinnati. So D-line, I'm probably always a tad indecisive. And I think I am a little bit here. I don't feel uber confident about it, but 10 is a number that Ballard likes. So I will go with the old double digit right here.
All right, up next, the positional group that has me the most concerned heading into the regular season. Then we turn to the linebacker group.
Mark, I don't think I've ever done this in 15 years of trying to project roster cuts. I don't think I've ever cut it down to just 4. And that's what I've got at linebacker. Now, Lou Anarumo is not a huge fan of the linebacker position in general. He's going to play more DBs, and I cut Shagun Alubi, and that's the one I'm thinking Brian Mason's going to go to Chris Ballard and be like, dude, I don't have a lot of special teams guys. And now Doolin and Goodson are hurt. I got to keep Alubi. So I'm probably wrong here. But nonetheless, Joe Bocci, Jalen Carlisle, Zaire Franklin, and Cameron McGrone, the LC product. Austin Ajike is another name that I thought of out there as a potential fifth linebacker, and obviously Alubi, given his special teams background. Alubi has really not done much defensively, though. So that's why I didn't have him on there. But, again, 4 probably should be 5 here, if I'm going to be totally honest. So.
Yeah, man, you lose 1 to injury, and you are paper thin.
I think you're playing 2, and, maybe do you play the practice squad game, where you keep 2 of these guys on the practice squad, you can bring them up. So you are right. I'm probably a number short here.
From the start of training camp to now, has your confidence level on the linebacker group gone up, down, or indifferent?
No, it's still there. Now, Jalen Carlisle, I should mention, Mark, has been dealing with an ankle injury. Is he one of those IR candidates to return? If he is, then you put Alubi on it, or something like that. So that is one that I probably should be watching out for a little bit here. So, I'm with you, man. I'm still very uncertain. And, Zaire Franklin is a bit uncertain. He would push back on that, but he's never had an offseason like this with missing as much time in his career either.
All right, let's move to the secondary. Same thing. Do you want to go position group, or do you want to just do secondary as a whole?
Yeah, let's start with corner. This one has actually kind of cleared up for me lately. I think the Xavier Howard news and Juju Brent's back to practice, who, people have asked me, hey, Juju's playing in the preseason game. Does that mean he could be a surprise cut? I don't think so. But, man, people asking that question has now created a little morsel of doubt in my brain. I just think it's got to knock off Russ. I mean, that dude's missed more time than Richardson. Now, I do need to remind myself, as I've tried to remind probably all of our listeners out there, this is Lou Anarumo's world. It's not Gus Bradley's world. But I think he would like Juju's skill set. So I'm going to keep 6. Xavier Howard, Kenny Moore, and Travaris Ward are your starters. Jalen Jones, assuming he can get back in September. Chris Lamons, I'll view as backup nickel. And then I'll go Juju Brent. I had Jonathan Edwards, the undrafted kid out of Tulane, on the roster for a while. That is one that I'm interested. Could you keep a 7th? Certainly practice squad. Unfortunately for Samuel Womack, he got hurt. It looked like another hamstring. In practice, I've liked Duke Shelley a little bit, but again, you can only keep so many here. So those are the 6 that I'm going to keep.
Okay. Safety time.
Yeah, the Hunter Wooler injury, just such a bummer here.
Yeah,
so
that one was a gut punch.
The 4 seems rather straightforward. Cam Bynum, Nick Cross, Daniel Scott, Rodney Thomas II. So Daniel Scott, former 5th-round pick, been waiting for him. Health-wise, obviously, has been an issue. Trey Washington's the undrafted free agent out of Ole Miss, who has a little bit of a resume, but, sometimes you keep 5 safeties for special teams, but I'll go with those 4.
Yeah, that seems pretty cut and dry, I would say. Special teams, I mean, Spencer Schrader is the starting opening day kicker, correct? I don't think there's any debate at this point.
I don't think so. I mean, they haven't officially said that, but, Trujillo, I assume, will get a chance tomorrow, but then it'll be Schrader. So, yeah, Schrader, Luke Rhodes, and Rigoberto Sanchez. So, again, questions at running back for sure. Always in the trenches. Are you number off there? Linebacker keeping 4 is probably idiotic. I don't see myself overwhelmingly change, but I will make an updated one on the website here this weekend, so definitely keep an eye out for that.
You ready for Twitter questions?
Let's do it, brother.
All right. Looks like you got a response from the university. Creighton has reached out. I'm assuming
Blue Jay. Can you make a Blue Jay noise for us, Mark?
Tweet, tweet. I don't know. I can't do it that well. I don't even know if that's what a Blue Jay sounds like. It's probably
sounded great to me.
Some other thing. All right, Creighton.
You must be a parent.
As a Colts fan, this feels terrible. A lose-lose for both quarterbacks. Richardson should have started. This has to be a decision made by a coach needing wins and not caring about the future of the position for the Colts. Your thoughts?
Well, yes, I guess to answer that last part.
Self-preservation, baby.
Correct. It's kind of goes back to a comment I probably made early in the offseason. This is a very awkward time to be a Colts fan. We're not used to that in this market. We've been very fortunate, frankly, from a quarterback standpoint, not to have these awkward moments. And, we had a listener, Mark Paul, I think reached out to us earlier this week saying the Colts asked us all to be patient, and now they're no longer practicing that patience. I think there's a lot of validity to that. So, this is no longer 2023. It's happy-go-lucky. Let's go watch our young quarterback grow. Or, that's gone. It's self-preservation is a great way to put it. And, as morbid as this might sound, and I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but someone asked me earlier this week if Jim Irsay was still here, would we see Richardson as a starter?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that far-fetched of a thought in my mind. So, I don't know. It's all just so confusing. Why was the line of scrimmage, elementary nature to Anthony Richardson acceptable in 2023, but not in 2025?
Mm-hmm.
It just... So, yes, to answer your question, Creighton, this is, and largely coaches are pretty short, term mindset-y, but, Steichen's not an idiot. He knows the leash isn't very long.
Right, and that's why the valid fan frustration over this whole situation with the lack of patience from the organization when they ask the fan base to have that same patience, it's frustrating. It's frustrating there, and then, again, now you've got a coaching staff that is trying to survive. They would like to keep their jobs in the NFL, but Shane Steichen also I would like to get another head coaching job down the line if this one doesn't work out. So he's going to go with the guy that he thinks best makes his system work, and that apparently is Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and I think we'll have more questions to get into this, but yeah, Steichen he's bullish on the 10 around Jones and himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Kit is up next. He said, how about the prospect of Danny Dimes as compared to Gardner Minshew? He was one throw away from winning the division. I know that's a simplistic view, but I would understand why Shane feels like he could make the playoffs even with a slight upgrade from Minshew, and I'm willing to bet he makes the playoffs or you're fired or for Ballard and Shane.
Yes. Yeah, I again, this kind of gets into what I was just saying. Like, Shane is bullish on the run game, the O-line, the pass catchers, and himself. Like, Mark, I would have a question. If your skill group looked like this in 2023, would you have operated in the same manner? Mm-hmm. Like, their skill group is better, right? Yeah. I mean, Warren and Downs was a rookie then, and Pierce has truly emerged. And so I do think they are better suited for a game manager to operate it. Now, Daniel Jones's record against teams above 500, I want to say it's like 733-1. So I still think there's largely a defined ceiling. That 23 season, if I remember correctly, Mark, Matt Gay makes 1 million field goals to win in week 3, 4, and I think that's the last time. To me, that's the last time they've beaten a notable quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, this year's schedule has got. I mean, even week 1. I mean, Tua might be the best quarterback the Colts have. If the Colts beat Tua, he might be the best quarterback they've beaten since Lamar Jackson. And, people debate Tua on a daily basis.
Right.
About how good he is in the NFL. Certainly injuries have played a role into it. So, yeah, I mean, again, I understand where Shane is coming from. He thinks, I'm a great play caller. I can scheme some stuff up. I just want someone that can be more in control. And I think, you and I talked about this on air with James Boyd and Jeff Rickard earlier this week of like, is Daniel Jones better than Anthony Richardson? Or is he just more consistent?
Mm-hmm. I think stylistically he fits what Shane Steichen wants to do more than what Anthony Richardson does. I always felt like Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen were pulling at two different ends of the rope stylistically. Anthony Richardson is more of a big, tough running quarterback, and Shane Steichen wants more of that pass-centric and just kind of dink and dunk if you need to and all that stuff. He wants to find a guy that can operate his offense the way he sees fit, and I don't think, obviously, he thinks that Anthony Richardson can do that in year 3, so that's why he's rolling with Daniel Jones on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, it's a lesser of two evils. And Mark, you and I hopefully will be here. Well, we will be here one day, I guess, and hopefully it won't be as nervous as it's making me right now. But at some point, you hand the keys to the 16-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, you might say Richardson's 16 and Jones is 17.
Yeah,
it's just one more calming influence. One more year behind the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that, or Richardson's been in 4 crashes and Jones has been in 3.
Yeah, one more year with the permit before you go get the license.
That's kind of how you view it.
All right, this is probably one of your more popular questions you've had. Garrett and Daner have both asked, would you request a trade if you are in Anthony Richardson's shoes?
I think it's a hair dramatic for that. You and I disagreed on this earlier this week, Mark. I tend to think the best case scenario for Anthony Richardson in 2025 is to just sit here with the Colts. Perhaps, honestly, don't even play.
Mm-hmm.
But the best chance for him to succeed will be somehow, some way, he plays. Jones misses games every year, seemingly. He plays for 2 weeks. It kind of looks like the Jets and Patriots of last year, and now all of a sudden, he's a darling again. Look what happened to Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones went away from the NFL for 3 months, and now he comes back, and you would have thought Ryan Gosling had just walked in the Bowen household.
Boy, Maddie'd probably be excited more than you would be.
You think more than me wearing a
more than you,
1982 Notre Dame baseball shirt with, I think, of the 6 buttons that were originally on it, I think only 3 are there.
You'd be excited just to see if he could knock some stuff off the chore list for you.
Yeah, that's probably where I would side with that. Yeah, I'd be pulling weeds in the yard very quickly. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with Richardson. Now, you have mentioned, hey, trading to the Rams and Sean McVay, blah, blah, blah. I understand where you're coming from.
Right. I'm not saying he would necessarily request a trade, but I could see where a change of scenery would do him well, where he's kind of just treading water right now, maybe even regressing to this point in the Colts organization, where a change of scenery, sometimes that's all you need, is you need to get like the guys that were on the White Sox last year, on the worst baseball team ever. All of a sudden they go to the Brewers, and Andrew Vaughn, who couldn't hit a lick, is all of a sudden leading the team on this hot streak that the Brewers have been on, not to go down the baseball rabbit hole, but sometimes it's a change of scenery that all you need is you need to get a more competent guy, or maybe a Sean McVay that can get in his ear and say, I can fix this guy. You just need one coach around the NFL to say, I can fix him, and get him in interest.
I agree on the change of scenery part. I just think the best time for that is probably in January.
Yeah.
I mean, if he already is having issues offensively here with 3 years in the same system, what's 3 weeks going to be somewhere else? And there is part of me, and this kind of gets away from the question a little bit more, but like, does Shane Steichen owe it to his franchise? And honestly, it's probably where Carly would have to step in. Does he owe it to the franchise to say, we drafted this project? Shane Steichen, I would argue, wanted him more than anybody in that building. You owe it to the project to see it out. And hear me out, as a play caller and a head coach, here's the small playbook that Anthony Richardson knows. This is what we're working with. You can continue to evaluate him on availability, accuracy, the pre-snap stuff. Yeah, one day you'd love for the menu to look like the Cheesecake Factory. But right now, we're living in, I shouldn't say Cracker Barrel, we're living in Steak and Shake's world.
I'd say you're living in In-N-Out Burger, where it's literally burgers and fries.
Perfect.
That's it.
We are living in there. And so
5 menu choices, you get nothing else.
Do you go that path? Again, maybe it's not the best case to open up the whole playbook and all of that versus a Band-Aid. I can hear people on both sides of it. I think largely our listeners know where I am. I'm always one eye towards the future. So yes, I would say you do, but clearly that's not happening.
All right, Jamie's up next. Daniel Jones plays lights out, and Colts decide to give him a contract. Just paid Bernard Ryman. Almost all your tight defensive end depth is new contracts. One positive, AP stock is down. I assume that means AR.
Alec Pierce.
I'm sorry. AP stock is down, and Colts may get him on the cheap.
Boy, they ain't getting Pierce on the cheap. I mean, yes, if I'm Pierce, I'm worried. Not. But if you're Pierce's agent, you just tell teams, hey, have you seen the 2024 film when my client led the league in yards per catch? Boy, but the large premise here, that's danger. I mean, what if 2022 Giants happens all over again? Daniel Jones looks good.
Oh, God.
Are you giving him the notable deal? Because, again, we touched on this week on the show, Mark. The weird thing with the Jones situation versus Richardson, you owe financial answers quicker to Jones than you do Richardson. Mm-hmm. Again, Jones is on a 1-year deal as a free agent. Will be a free agent in 2026. Richardson is under control for next year at a reasonable number. The question with Richardson is, do you pick up the 5th-year option for 2027? You must make that decision by next spring. So let's just play this out. If you say no to that 5th-year option, which right now clearly is trending,
why would you say yes
in that direction? You then have him for 1 more year, finishing out his rookie contract before free agency. Whereas with Jones, right here, right now, you have got to make that decision after the season. And if Daniel Jones looks like he did in 2022, are you giving him 3 years and $60 million?
No. Unless he wins the MVP of the league, I don't think I'm giving him a contract extension at all. That's just me. But I think at this point, you need to rip the Band-Aid off, stop again with these veteran quarterback plugs, and just draft a quarterback with a competent GM and new head coach, if that's the way they end up going when this is all said and done this season. You get in the 2026 draft, you draft a young guy, and you actually develop him. You give him time. You don't have to throw him out there on week one. Let him develop with a competent coaching staff and everything like that. That's the way I would go, because you're not winning anything with Daniel Jones in the long term. We can go through the laundry list of who's won the AFC South the last couple of years and the Brock Osweilers and this and that. I think most fans are thinking and hoping that Daniel Jones is a one-year solution and that's it. And then you rip the Band-Aid off and you start anew once again with the quarterback situation. That's what I would do. I don't know where you fall on that, but unless he's winning the MVP, why would you bring him back again?
What did Belichick say about Cincinnati?
We're on to Cincinnati.
We're on to 2026 mock draft.
Yeah. I was already looking at that earlier this week, unfortunately.
Field Yates went Drew Aller?
Drew Aller from Penn State, baby.
With the 11th pick?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Interesting.
All right, Travis, my only thoughts on this, Kevin, is this was never truly a competition. Was the writing already on the wall when they signed Daniel Jones? Now we kick this can down the road another year.
Boy, it's a great question. And I honestly poo-pooed the $14 million. Like, people were like, hey, that to me tells me something. I kind of swept that under the rug. Maybe I should have been a little bit more addressing that. To me, that was kind of just the price of doing business. And I know he turned down more from Minnesota. So, if Daniel Jones would have taken the Minnesota money, who the hell's your starter now? Is it Richardson? Or is it, Jameis or somebody? So, I think there's some merit. A couple other things. I do think Richardson missing those 7 of 9 practices in the spring, as decimating as it was to him, I think it also allowed the staff to further fall in love with Jones. You can watch Jones in a practice. I mean, I've watched him in a lot. And I think this week, he's thrown a pick maybe. I think he's had one pick each day. But he's also had 10, 11, 12 throws where it's like, boom, right there, in stride, good ball placement. You can see why they would favor that from a consistency standpoint. Honestly, the question I would have is, if Shane Steichen wasn't in the NFC East in 2022, would we be talking about this? I mean, Shane Steichen, that man who says nothing in a press conference, that man brought out the franchise record for the New York Giants completion percentage on Tuesday. I'm like, damn. I didn't know. And I was stunned it was only 67%. Probably shows you where the New York Giants have been as a quarterback franchise. So
he went deep on the Pro Football Focus numbers.
He did. He
bust out the analytics and everything.
Listen to that talking point. But hear me out, Mark. He's in that division in 2022. He's prepping his Eagles offense each week. So he sees a lot of Daniel Jones in film study. When Jones goes 3-13 as a starter in 23 and 24, he's here. He's not watching Jones to the level that he watched him in 2022, where injuries have happened since then. Again, it's like you get further away from the player. It's Carson Wentz and Philly sort of thing. Like, okay, Frank, I get that, but a lot's happened since then. So,
interesting.
That is a thought.
Matt, up next. I'm sort of happy with the decision to start Daniel Jones. What do you say to Colts fans like me who have already kind of checked out on Anthony Richardson? It's not that we don't see the upside. He's already shown he can play winning football, even with some accuracy concerns. I mainly come down to health. Even if he puts it all together, it still feels like it's only a matter of time before he gets hurt again. And going forward, we'll be living with that constant concern every single season.
Sure. Availability. Yep. I totally hear you out. Now, again, Jones has struggled with some availability at times. But, Jones, my win total for the Colts won't change very much, honestly, when we get to that time. We're almost there. I do think they can still be a fine football team with Jones, I should say. Again, I think their skill group is much more equipped to playing this sort of football, but I do think there's a defined ceiling with it. So to me, you're always striving to find that next guy. How do you find that? That's where it is for me. But, I understand there is a section of the fan base, Mark, that's just done with Richardson, which, again, I can totally hear you out on that. The thing is, if you're done with Richardson, I don't know. I mean, Jones, to me, is just, he's kind of similar to, everybody else. So that's where I think it is frustrating. But living in the here and now, I don't think, I'd be stunned if the Colts are drafting top 5. I'd be stunned if they're drafting. I'd be stunned if they draft in top 10.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, Again, Vegas has it at 7.5, and I think that's a perfectly fine number. Maybe even I'll probably go a hair higher than that.
Yeah, I think I could see them going top 10. And that's just because I think this is going to snowball at some point, and the locker room is going to start getting a little chirpy. And I have a feeling this could be a season that we've similar seen when we had Jeff Saturday as head coach at some point. I don't know if we can get that level of blank show, but I could see where if something starts going south, that locker room starts fracturing a little bit, then maybe the veterans start chirping up a little more, guys start getting unhappy, and boy.
Jeez, man. Oh, boy.
I know. I would hate for that to be the situation, but I also can visualize that happening, and we see the entire front office blown out, head coaching staff, and we're starting all anew in 2026. So we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but boy, it could. Max, what are the fantasy implications of Daniel Jones at quarterback, who have been his favorite targets at camp? Boy, if you're targeting Daniel Jones in your draft, you really must be in like a 30-team league.
Now, you and I are in a league together. So don't listen to me right now. I would draft Tyler Warren very high.
Yeah, I would say there are two Colts that I would have on my draft board, and that would be Jonathan Taylor and it'd be Tyler Warren. And after that, I'm taking a flyer, and they're probably sitting on the bench the majority of the season when it comes to wide receivers.
Jones had some good times in New York with some of the downs type of guys, some of the slot guys. So again, PPR leagues, could you live off of, kind of a solid day from downs here and there? Yeah, definitely. But I think Warren, I think he's going to catch it a lot. I think he's going to be using the red zone a lot. I think they're going to use his legs. I think they might even use his arm. We saw it at Penn State. The deep ball is curious to me. How much does this hurt Pierce?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think makes Pierce one of the more fascinating fantasy players. It's like he barely catches the ball, but if he has 2 for 65 and a touchdown, you're going to take that.
Yeah.
So you just hope that he catches one of them and doesn't get a 40-yard pass interference where the team still benefits from it, but you don't.
I feel like every wide receiver on the Colts is going to be one of those guys you have on the bench that you only play when one of your guys has a bye week. Because it's going to be so hit and miss with the quarterback situation and just the receptions. How many looks are they going to get per game? That's why Tyler Warren and Jonathan Taylor, those would be the only two Colts I circle on draft boards the entire time.
That's fair.
All right, Craig says, if according to Carly, the goal is to be the best, then when does she believe Daniel Jones is the answer? Knowing what you know about Carly, do you think she steps in at any point this season on the QB situation? What is your over-under on Daniel Jones starts?
Boy, well, Daniel Jones's career would indicate he's not starting 17 games. He's probably, 14 gamer. So, we're going to see Anthony Richardson, right? Based off that. So. So obviously that we'll cross that bridge whenever that happens. Certainly right now with Carly, we know little, but I do think this is a really great overall point. It's, she is a very, very much, we've got to strive to be the best, be the best, be the best. Okay. To me, when I hear that, be the best is sustained greatness.
Yeah.
It's multiple year runs. It's keeping the window open. It's what Baltimore has right now. It's what Buffalo has right now. It's what Kansas City has right now. It's what Houston seemingly has had and I guess could have with the C.J. Stroud era.
It's competing for division titles annually.
Correct. Yes, plural, annually, exactly. And so to do that, you can't have Band-Aids. And there is part of me that kind of goes back to the Combine, Mark, when we had Chris Ballard on our show. And, I asked Ballard, why are you getting a 9th year? And the answer had very little to do with anything on his resume in that he was getting a 9th year. But it really came back to the thought process organizationally, with Jim Irsay clearly signing off on this, when they drafted Richardson. He's telling people at the Combine, we don't have to win. Mm-hmm. We're going to have this window where we can be patient in this window. And so we're going to draft Richardson. We're going to hire the first-year head coach. And now, indirectly, we're going to create new life for me as a GM. Well, seemingly, it's another life with Daniel Jones. It's now a new, and I get it, Carly's not going to obviously fire someone 2 weeks before the start of the season, but it is just kind of odd how, and this goes back to the Jim Irsay thing, you ran it back with this group, I assume thinking Anthony Richardson. You didn't run it back with this group saying, you guys deserve another quarterback chance,
mm-hmm.
especially Ballard.
Yeah.
So.
Ben says, why the F is Daniel Jones in the building before Anthony Richardson most days? I'm getting this from Warren's comments. Maybe he just doesn't get it and never will.
Yeah, I don't know if Tyler Warren inferred exactly that, but I just think largely the last part. He doesn't get it and never will. I think that's sadly well said.
Mm-hmm.
Of a guy that is naive. Yeah, doesn't get, just didn't grow up in a, whatever. Daniel Jones maybe grew up in a different quarterback climate, and then he was drafted to a team that had Eli Manning. And this gets into it. When you're laying the pie out and you're putting blame on the pie, certainly Richardson is a big chunk of it, without question. But to me, the biggest chunk is probably the misevaluation. The misevaluation of how naive he truly was, how much hand-holding was going to be needed, and then off of that, the plan that needed to be in place to follow that. Like, you needed to hold the hand. Big time. Mark, you can speak to it with 3 young children. If all 3 of you are crossing the road, there's probably one of them that you feel like you got to hold the hand more than the other one.
Had to literally do that the last 2 days at school because one would try to take off in the parking lot. What are we doing here? Get over here.
I think the analogy makes a little bit of sense. Like, you have to treat your prized franchise possession like that. Yeah, right. At some point, you're going to have to let go of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't draft the biggest project, arguably in NFL history, for a first-round pick and not hold the hand. We don't need to play the big old NFL macho game of, oh, no, he's got to learn the hard way. No.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do everything you can in these early years. Have the James Johnson type Pacers influence inside that quarterback room. Gardner Minshew as a 6th-round pick wanted no part of that. I don't blame Gardner. Joe Flacco, he wanted no part of that. Emphasis on no. And Daniel Jones is trying to revive his career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where was the Matt Hasselbeck? Where was that aspect to it? I mean, you felt like Andrew Luck needed that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Anthony Richardson deserves blame, definitely. At some point, you would like to think it would fall into him. But, again, I've told the story before. I watched that documentary, I forget which streaming service it's on, where they followed Bryce Young, Anthony, and some other high school quarterback around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was jarring to see Anthony's high school football program compared to Bryce Young's, for example. I mean, it was light years away
mm-hmm.
from the difference in that. And then, obviously the college scene, Bryce Young, plays at a high level and starts for multiple years and all of that, and Anthony didn't do that. So, COVID year, if you throw that in there as well. So, again, there's blame to go around. I've called it organizational failure. Richardson is included in that. But I would say the misevaluation is probably the biggest thing.
So in the classroom and everything like that, last year, like Caleb Williams was a rookie. The only other quarterback he had to rely on in there was Tyson Bagent, another young guy. There's reports from last season that the Eberflus coaching staff was obviously a shit show and whatnot. But he even said, like, no one was teaching me how to play quarterback, how to read offenses, all that stuff. That's why this season they brought in a Case Keenum, a guy who's already been out of the league for a little bit, but came back. But he's a veteran. He knows he's not competing for a starting job. But they brought him in, and he's kind of gotten, this is how you study the playbook. This is how you break down film. This is how you read defenses, this and that. And that's something that Anthony Richardson never got over these last 3 years. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're bringing guys in, but you're also bringing these veteran guys in with the chance to compete. You need to bring in a guy that is probably in the shadow of his career that probably you're going to be playing backup. There's not a chance that you're going to play QB1 at any point. He never had that. He never learned how to break down film. He never learned how to read defenses or anything like that. He was going in blind, and maybe that's on Shane Steichen and the coaching staff not helping him along, but that's also on the organization for not giving him competent veterans to help him through the whole process of adjusting from college to the NFL.
I think that's really well said. At some point, you have to take the training wheels off. At some point, the leash comes off. At some point, again, you stop the hand-holding. I get all of that, but you've got to put all that stuff on to start. And honestly, I think the financial makeup of quarterbacks in the NFL play into this as well. Like, before you give them the big money, you've got that 4-year period to evaluate, to try and get them to where they've earned that.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure you give them all the resources available to help them out. And then at some point, you hope the quarterback covers up whatever, weakness here, weakness there, and they're making that sort of money.
All right, last one of the Twitter questions comes from Z-Palm. This one is a little dated only because it starts out with, on the eve of the QB starter potentially being named, do you think the veteran players have a say in the decision-making? Think big guys like DeForest Buckner, Quentin Nelson, Kenny Moore Michael Pittman, Zaire Franklin, DJ or AR. I remember Zaire and some company openly mocking Daniel Jones on their podcast. Hard to imagine that group would then vouch for DJ to lead the team. I hope it's not DJ. I'm feeling nauseous already. Well, I'm curious how many buckets he filled in last week.
Gosh, I forgot. Remember Zaire Franklin saying he wanted to play Daniel Jones on the podcast?
Yeah.
And now he's the quarterback.
That he is. Life comes at you fast.
I could see the locker room being pretty split on this.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
Like, Mark, you play offense for the Colts. You're out there on the field during that Ravens play, and you're like, wait a minute, all 10 of us were on the same page, and yet you got sacked?
Mm-hmm.
But then you're on the offense during the Green Bay play, and you're the left tackle that got absolutely whipped on the play, and he then completes some 30-yard ball to Anthony Gould, and you're like, oh, thank you, Anthony. Let me help you up from that. Like, I could see it going both ways. And, Quentin Nelson obviously expressed some frustration about it earlier this week. And, again, he's been part of it for now 8 years. So, I'd be very curious what the locker room answer would be on that. I do think several players, Zaire being one of them, Michael Pittman being one of them, even a little bit of Buckner. I mean, I feel like they've kind of gone above and beyond to describe their support for Richardson and all of that. I don't think they necessarily need to do that. But then, if you're some of these pass catchers, Pierce might not fall into this category, but maybe some of the others that say, hey, I'm in where I'm supposed to be. I made the in cut at 8 yards. Give me the ball, not airmail me. So, yeah, I think they could be split as well.
I also noticed in those comments, too, that the veteran guys who've been through numerous quarterback changes wanted to stick with Anthony Richardson because he's been around and in the organization. I think they just wanted some stability. And the younger guys who don't know any better were like, yeah, we can roll with Daniel Jones because they don't know any better because they haven't gone through the quarterback carousel that the veterans have. So I could see the locker room being split from I've been in the league for a few years to guys who are just coming into the league. Like, yeah, this is our first go around too. So sure, roll with the guy that we think is going to win. And the veterans like, not this again. We can't be doing this again. Because I feel for guys like Quentin Nelson and DeForest Buckner that deserve better and probably would like to be going elsewhere to get some stability there.
No, I think that's a very, very good point. That is the voice of Mark Dykton. I am Kevin Bowen. This is Colts Corner with myself and Mark. I guess previewing the weekend again. Preseason finale coming up tomorrow. That'll be Saturday afternoon in Cincy. And then Tuesday by 4 o'clock, roster cuts due. Chris Ballard will meet the media in what will be, or typically is his last press conference of the season. That'll be Wednesday, recapping roster cuts. Usually waiver claims are processed by that time as well. Mark, great work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the donut as well.
Yes, I would say
it was delicious.
I would say good luck to your Cubs, but I don't really mean it.
That's unnecessary.
So, yeah, that'd be like the casual, like, hey, man, can't wait to hang out again. It's like, well, I don't know if I really mean that.
I'd rather dig in a porta potty.
Easy now. He is Mark Dykton. I'm Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to Colts Corner. And we'll be back next week. Probably Wednesday we're looking at. Maybe a little post-Ballard presser.